Hello, everybody. Welcome to the. You good?
Sorry.
It's fine. Welcome to this Teen Talker special number 5. And today, under the magnifying glass, we have none other than Audrey Riley. And one more time for you, Audrey, Maestro. I'm just gonna say some good things about Audrey. If you have not seen the episode 42 with Audrey, go and do that because she wrote an incredible song, incredible piece. It's not a song, it's a composition. But Audrey Riley, as I said in the episode, incredible cellist, composer, arranger, music director, conductor. As it turns out, incredible at gardening. Does not necessarily like the word teaching, even though for me and Alex, she was a teacher and a mentor. But she's just an incredible human being. That's the most important
Stop.
thing. And to prove all that, just to drop few names who Audrey worked with. Have you ever heard of this indie band called Coldplay? Or maybe up and coming band called Foo Fighters, Muse.
Yeah,
Then-
Rockman Muse.
Yeah, they're just like beginners, those kind of cats. Have you ever heard of them? And there are plenty more beginner musicians that Audrey arranged and composed and recorded for. But all jokes aside, like, guys, these are just few names.
The
The list goes on and on and on.
insane.
And we want to know all about
Eat
that
all of that.
and many more. Because in the episode, you mentioned that you come from a big family,
Yeah.
right? And the cello became your escape in a way from the noise.
My voice.
Your voice, better say voice now than
Yeah.
escape.
Mm.
The tool of expression, more
I
than
liked
just a
the
tool.
Noise. I liked the
You
noise.
do like the noise. Actually, yeah, that is
Yeah.
true.
I just wanted to be part of the noise.
But yeah, you wanted to be a part of the noise. So can you tell us a little bit? I mean, I've known you for nearly 3 years at this point, but
A lifetime, Shukhrat.
a long time.
Yeah.
But I know now I'm like, I never even asked you why in the first place it was cello.
It wasn't my choice.
It
And I'm
was not.
very obedient. And here comes another sanctimonious sermon because we're getting used to me doing that tonight, aren't we? Once upon a time in this glorious country, every child of school age in the county where I grew up had the opportunity to learn an orchestral instrument and go and play in orchestras on Saturdays. And we're given the instrument and we're given free lessons. The teacher would come to the school.
Oh wow.
To the school. Was
to
that
the
like
school?
2002?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was back in the 60s. So I was really fortunate. Both my parents are musical, good amateur musicians they were. And I'd been playing the piano since I was 6. So one day, the teacher comes in the room, hands up, everyone who plays the piano got grade 1 piano. And I was 8.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh, that's me. I think that's me. And they said, great, we need a cello in the orchestra. That's you. So that was that.
Right. They were like, "You're going to play."
You're going to play the cello.
Oh wow.
Oh, it's a good job. I liked it.
Okay. And how did that go? So through school you went to, after the school, I mean.
Yeah, so I spent until I was 19 with the Leicestershire County School of Music, which was the
Mhm.
orchestras we had on Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
And I got good at it because I loved it. And so I didn't really go to school. I hung out for Saturdays and what we were going to do there and kind of got better and better. And then in the end, I was kind of like in the top orchestra and leading the cello section. And we were playing all this incredibly complicated, hard contemporary music. So Michael Tippett was our patron.
Mm.
We didn't play like Beethoven and Mozart and stuff.
Okay.
We were
Mhm.
playing Charles Ives, Edgar Varese, bring
okay.
it on.
Okay.
Douglas Young, all the hard stuff. And they would literally teach us the rhythms by seriously complex rhythms. And I'd go, right, I've got that bit now.
That's an interesting
It's
approach to.
fabulous.
Yeah, it's not very usual, I guess.
No, it was unique.
Yeah.
And at one point, the rest of Europe came to visit Leicestershire when it was first formed in the 1940s to take note of what was being accomplished there. And went
Mm.
home and recreated the same thing in their own countries.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was really special. And what it delivered was for people like me who, I don't know what I would have done if the cello hadn't found me. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been a cellist since I was 8. that's it. There
Yeah.
not another Audrey. But for my friends in the orchestra who maybe didn't fancy the whole ride, didn't want to go any further, they're music lovers. They go to concerts, they play in amateur orchestras, or they play in bands. They have a lifelong passion and understanding of music. And as we know, if you can learn music, you can learn to learn. That's why they did it, because it teaches children to learn. So we were all
Agreed.
healthier and happier because we'd had that opportunity.
Yeah, I think it's so important. Yeah, to
It is
be able to have that creative
Yeah,
output. Yeah,
we were valued.
input and output. Yeah,
Yeah, we were invested in
That's
a really
amazing.
special way.
That's
yeah,
amazing.
I was extremely fortunate. And of course, so, I got the bug, and it was obvious when I left school, I was going to music college, because then I would keep going, right? We'd be youth orchestra all over again, except in a different city.
Where did you go?
The
Did you
Guildhall.
go? Guildhall.
Yeah, so I got into the Guildhall, and I was there for, it was a 4-year course, and then it was another year before I could bear to part with my cello teacher. And even then I kept learning with him privately, because I loved him to bits. Len Steen, best cello teacher in the world, an absolute genius. Yeah.
And is that where, in the Guildhall, where arranging and composition and
No.
when did that and where did that come into the picture?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because while I was at the Guildhall, I was going out with an artist who also played the guitar, and he used to try to get me to improvise with him, and I'd say, but I can't play if there aren't any notes. How does that work? I don't understand this. What is this playing without notes?
Okay.
But my younger brother is a singer-songwriter, really fantastic one. And after I left Guildhall, he came to live with me, and we started playing together. And I'd think up simple lines to go on his songs, And I kind of learned how to do it, how to improvise and how to play with Richard playing songs. And then he got really interested in recording, bought a studio, and I was going out with a bass player by then. So the three of us spent these kind of years after being at Guildhall not getting any work and mucking around with a Porter studio and turning the tape over and seeing what would happen if the tape went backwards, and getting really excited.
Yeah, just to clarify that for people,
Porter Studio. Porter
that's-
Studio. It's an early tape recorder that allowed you to record 4 different tracks, input 4 different tracks.
Okay.
If you kept bouncing them down, you could make that go on
Like
infinitely.
basically Beatles thing, pretty much what they did with the bounces.
Exactly.
That's where the name
Right.
from, in your DW of choice. Because you mentioned, I just want to, maybe we'll come back to this later, but improvisation. So you're obviously coming from a classical playing cello. I mean, there are plenty of cellists, classical or not, that are fluent in improvisation, played with many, non-classical musicians. One of the biggest examples, probably Yo-Yo Ma, recorded an album with Joshua Redman, one of the greatest sax players today. That's just one of the examples. There are many, but you are very big, if that's the way to describe that, on improvisation, and how important it is to know how to listen while you're playing, which is one of the most important skills when it comes to improvisation, not only just improvising lines. So can you tell me, as a classical musician, how difficult and what were those difficulties and issues that you encountered when you're just starting, and how did you go through them to develop the skill that you possess now, which is really good? Because, you had many conversations on jazz, fusion jazz, and everything that is based on improvisation, and you are never felt to me like it is a realm that is uncomfortable for
Got
you.
away with it then.
Never felt to me that you were in not experienced in that.
Well, I can't play it on the cello, Shukhrat. I need to be clear about that.
It's difficult to play those lines, but
it's
still,
difficult to play jazz on the cello. It's something I've never really conquered. Okay, what happened? I started arranging and composing. And this is why I'm passionate about teaching arranging and composing to performers, because then you start to understand how the music's engineered. And once you understand how the music is engineered, then you can work out what your contribution is.
Right.
And again, that's starting with listening. You listen and you think, is there room for me to speak? is what I want to say, is that relevant? Is it good? Is it helpful? If I speak, what will come back? And once I worked out how to do that as an arranger with string sounds, thinking of the sonic of strings, it was easier for me to go back to the cello and to say, well, then just play it. Why write it down and then play it? You know, let's lose the eyes bit. Just play. So, and now, yeah, you're right, Shukhrat, sort of right at the end. Well, not at the end, are we? But now I'm older. I've returned to the place that I was when I was a child, when I was first given the cello, which is, oh my God, that's such a gorgeous sound. I just want to keep doing that. Is that all right if I could just keep doing that? I'm back there. I just want to make that sound. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, so I guess trailing a bit back to the education, you went on this, like started working with your brother a bit, writing with him. How did you then go on from that recently graduate to then working with like the big
names,
artists, the big names that you've done today? I saw like early on you did, was it pretty early on you did Smashing Pumpkins? Was that right?
Yeah, that was too.
Yeah. That was an awesome track.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, sometimes it takes me by surprise. I look at it and go, was that really? And there was a funny moment a while ago when I think I was listening to something while I was reading or working or whatever, and I thought, that's a really good arrangement. One day I'll be able to arrange like that. And then I kind of looked and went, oh.
Wait, what?
It was one of mine. I just completely forgot.
That is a place to try to achieve. You know, that is something to put on the goals list. You know what I mean? To be able not to recognize your own work because how good it is.
Yeah.
Because you didn't expect it to be that good. How did that happen? Okay.
Yeah. How do you get in contact with these people?
All right. So now we say the extraordinary thing, which is that it was really actually quite remarkably difficult to get a job in an orchestra when I left Guildhall, which is, of course, what I wanted to do because I loved being in orchestra.
Yeah.
Right? But it was almost impossible because there was a massive economic problem going on. The early 80s were pretty grim, I have to say.
Right.
And also, it wasn't common for women to be in orchestras. It's extraordinary. It's not that long ago.
Right.
My mother kept that information from me. But it was actually, there were no women in the London Symphony Orchestra. There were no women in the Vienna Philharmonic, etc., etc., etc.
Like as if like unwritten rule type of thing.
Yeah, just
wow.
don't, you know, just it
Wow.
wasn't the, they weren't used to seeing it, you know, so therefore it looked out of place, so you wouldn't do that. I mean, you know, I can remember the shock of starting to see women conductors with the major orchestras because we just hadn't had that before.
Yeah.
So you had to really be prepared to beat the door down and go hungry for quite a long time. And it was tough times. There wasn't any money. We didn't have any money. And my brother was living with me, you know, needed to look after him or whatever. And so we went busking, actually. And while we were busking, somebody in a band came along, and I'm sure Richard's never forgiven me for this, but said to me, "You're pretty awesome, come and join my band." And this woman in her band didn't have any money either, but it meant that for a few years, I was moving and grooving with her, writing music with her, and she was in studios, and she was signed to Rough Trade. Her name was Virginia Astley, which meant that then I would be in a studio and it would be noticed that I could do it, that the result was good. I mean, it's interesting that I didn't know what I was doing. I was just following my ears, sort of singing through the cello kind of thing. But it worked, and it seemed like I was good at it. So it snowballs. Then the phone rings and someone says, "Oh, I was the engineer in the studio when you were in with whatever band. Could you come down and do you have some friends? Could you bring some friends and maybe write some parts for them? We can send you the song." And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. Gosh. But better learn fast because seriously, we can't pay the rent this month. So I got my favourite records. I always loved rock music. Me and Richard used to fight over who owned various albums. So I'd get my favorite rock albums out and listen to the ones that have got strings in and think, okay, what's happening? What is going on there? Who's playing what? And because I'd had this big youth orchestra training, you must imagine I'd sat around from the age of 8 till 19 in orchestra rehearsals going, French horns are pretty cool when they're paired with the clarinets, aren't they? That's interesting when the violas do a rhythm. So I'd got the skill in my head and my ears. So I just figured out what was happening on these records and tried it out in a studio with some of my friends. Hoped, crossed my fingers, that the band would like it and I'd get paid. And they did.
Nice.
And that's how it works. Then, you look round 10 years later or so and you think, oh my God, I've got 20-piece orchestra in front of me and I'm standing on a rostrum with a white stick in my hand and this band's enormous and ouch, I'm still scared. But people pass your name around and now then recently graduated students, why does that happen? Why do they pass your name around? Because you're on time, because you don't cause them a fuss or think you're a star or want to be a diva or bullshit anybody, because you do the best you possibly can with full commitment because you're interested in it, not because you want to be famous, but because you just believe in what they're doing and you think you believe in your contribution. It's really honest. And that you're nice to get along with, that you're not gonna pull any stunts or be silly about anything.
Yeah, that's always what it comes back to, isn't it? Like everybody just says that, just be nice to be around.
Yeah.
and do a good job. And then
and believe in it, and also admit that you don't know everything. So don't ever bullshit. If I'm asked to do something and I don't know how to do it, I'll say, I actually don't know how to do that yet, but I'm really interested in it and I'd love to learn from what you're doing.
That's funny. So Adam one time, Goldsmith, told me this story about the mandolin. Mandolin, you know that one?
I think the word mandolin,
He got a cold to do a mandolin session. He was like, you know how to play it? He said, yes. By the evening, he bought a mandolin. Next day, he figured out how to play it. The day after, he was in the studio.
Yeah.
He said, yes, you're nice about it, but then you learn how to do it quietly.
Yeah.
But
you just get your ducks in a row and do it.
Now that we're like in the studio and you are orchestra trained, you are used to be in groups, work as a part of a group of musicians, but you are here dealing with different side of music industry, budgeting, time, studio space, other people that are not necessarily musicians themselves and maybe do not understand what you are trying to do or doing. And oftentimes, not to throw, shade on anyone, but oftentimes those people who are in charge know way less than you, but for some reason they are in charge. So how do you go about that? How do you not lose your temper? How do you stay professional? And what were the first, thoughts that you had when you started getting those sessions when you were in studio? And you said you have 20-piece orchestra in front of you. Then it gets bigger or small, but you did start with something, yet it's already a change from what you used to. So how was that? How was that transition for you?
Okay, so humility in the first place. So after every session and after every interaction with the orchestra, because bear in mind, I'd not been taught to conduct. So I had to go and get evening classes in that. So, and also in all the business stuff, like handling accounts, becoming, registered with all the proper agencies and stuff, looking after people. Humility, actually, in the first place with the people who were playing the music for me, recognizing that I am nothing without them. That it's they who are making the sound, not me. So I really need to look after them and pay them well and let them know that they're appreciated because they are where the sound is coming from. And for the whole business side of it, and then the bit you speak about, that's the worst bit, interacting with the business end of rock and roll can be really, really nasty sometimes. Not nasty in that anyone is deliberately trying to hurt you, but
It is just a different world.
Yeah, it takes you a while to work out that, well, actually, you're like alien to them. You're a creative person. They're business people.
Yeah.
Their job every day is to make money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your job is to create stuff. You don't even speak the same language. So you're just roadkill to them. So, you know, basically
Yeah.
like babysitting there with candy. So keep your dignity. Don't fall out with anyone, but stand your ground when you really, it's going to make you feel sick about yourself if you accept the terms. But have enough strength and confidence in yourself to walk away if it's going to make you feel bad. But at the same time, do it firmly but nicely. It doesn't have to get aggressive. You just have to say that's where it stops. I've got sort of a little rule I keep for myself.
I wanted to ask you because me and you talked about that rule. I just would like, if it's possible, for you to share that rule because I think it's a very valuable thing.
What, the financial, creative, and love?
Yeah.
Okay, so if somebody asks me to do something, first of all, my very first special rule is whatever goes in my diary first. If I've written it in an ink and confirmed it, even if I'm unpaid, and then David Bowie rings me up, which he can't, I do the thing that went in my diary first. So you become known for being reliable. You're not going to let anyone down. But then the other three rules are, when I'm presented with work, is it's got to fall into one of three categories. Is it going to make me financially secure? Is it going to bring me creative satisfaction? Or am I doing it because I love the people who have asked me to do it? And it has to be one of those. And if it's none of them, then I ask myself, why am I doing it? And if I'm doing it because I feel I ought to do it or someone's leaning on me, then I know I'm going to get myself in a situation where I'm actually the one bringing unhappiness to the situation, not them. They're not doing something to me. I'm doing something I don't want to do.
Right, yeah.
That's
something
that me and Aleks both need to remember, and many people. And it's not about just being able to say no. It's much more. It's much deeper than just being able to say no. You gotta justify it somehow to yourself.
And also, like, that's easy for me to say at my age because I can see that very clearly. But I know your mic around. I know when I was your age that I did everything that came my way because the most important thing was just that I met people and people heard me. You know, some of those people will treat you badly and you just kind of go, okay, I'm never working with you again. Bye.
But there's still, I feel like, a balance needs to be there despite of how old you are and how experienced you are, because times are different and toxicity and so forth and so on is maybe even higher in some people in some places. But you know, you might be able to just saying yes to something quick, but you get out of it but just completely burned out. And that happened to me, and I've seen it happening to Aleks. He's seen it happening to me on many different occasions. But I think that's just it's a very valuable thing to think about regardless of where you are in life. Even as something as a rule that, you know, recognize it and eventually start applying that. Because it's a very nice way to systemize unknown that is being put on you. By unknown, I mean the offer of some kind to do something.
It also allows you to do things that the person doesn't have any money at all, but they're desperate to work with you. And you think, but I love what they're doing, so why shouldn't I?
Like obviously you have those situations as well. And like in regards to that, I'm thinking just, but you kind of also need to experience those, like go into those experiences and kind of figure out what works for you and what does not work for you. Like where is your limit? Where does those, like those three corners, like where does those limits kind of go for you?
Can I say something else though?
Absolutely.
I just think like there's so much anxiety around at the moment. In some ways, my generation had it so much easier because we were just prepared to go out in the road, fall down, get gravel in our knees, get back up, carry on,
Yeah.
unaware of difficulties we were causing for ourselves.
Mm.
Actually, the best thing you can do is just go out, jump in the pool, experience everything you can, and make a note of the stuff that isn't working for you.
Yeah, exactly.
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Just don't keep doing it like into your 30s or whatever. But give yourself a bit of time just to enjoy the variety of what's around, and don't worry about it too much, as long as you can pay the rent.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the hard bit.
About it is, you said it, business side of things, business people, you're speaking their own language. You are creative, you're a creator, you're speaking your own language. But both of those parties are on the opposite side of an artist. An act that both those parties are, in one way or another, meant to support and benefit, as well as that artist and that act benefits those two opposite sides. So, and you have worked with big names, right? We mentioned Coldplay. You did some of their early stuff, some not super recent, but 10 years ago, I think, right? XY came out, 2012-ish? I don't remember when that
Something around there.
So, but then they were big. They were really big back then already, not that they're not anymore. But so, as someone who is dealing with a big act, big artist, big band, what were the things that you have noticed you've been doing, either intentionally or not, or subconsciously, that made you feel comfortable around them regardless of their status? And I obviously want to believe that all the artists that you worked in general, they're good people, so you were not in any way threatened or felt uncomfortable around them. But still, what were the things that made you feel comfortable around them? What were the things that made you feel that you are in the right place and you know your value and you know that you have a value to bring to it? So you're not, you don't undervalue yourself and you kind of like, oh, I'm just like, I'm doing my thing, it's all about you. So you don't go into that extreme either. But yet they are artists, they are the name that goes on the cover of things. But you said it many times yourself already, it's about those people without whom it wouldn't be possible. You are one of those people. So what were the things that made you build healthy ego, if that makes sense?
Well, I mean, listen, we have to be clear, Shukhrat, that I did 2 albums with Coldplay and a bunch with Muse, and that doesn't mean that you're hanging out round at these people's houses, dropping in for coffee or going out for dinner. You're not establishing an intimate relationship with them. They are lovely people and good friends, and if you bump into them, then it's a joy to see them, and everything's lovely. But you're at work. So I think I was just smiling just then, because one of the things that came through doing my PhD and my love of John Cage actually is this Cage's approach to performance and composition, which is you're doing the work and you focus on the work. It's not about the person, it's about the work. And I think something to do with this sort of growing up in this youth orchestra where it's one huge community and we're all just playing the cello, and no one's better than anyone else, we're just all playing the cello to make one sound. So I think I've just kept that with me my whole life. I'll go into the studio, and I'm actually quite shy and anxious as a person trying to make friends with other people, so probably before going in I'm tied up in knots and super, oh my God, whatever, I'll say something wrong, I'm going to make a fool of myself, whatever, blah. But as soon as the music comes out, that's what it's about, and I forget about everything else, and I focus on that. So, yeah. Well, how did I get on with Chris Martin and Matt Bellamy and Billa Corgan? I don't know. I don't know if I did, but I do know that I got heavily addicted to the music that I was working on while I was working on it. So by the time I went into the studio, I was excited and wanted to talk to them about the music, and so we didn't talk about anything else.
Okay.
And that makes it easy because it's not about anybody then, it's about the work, which is what it should be about. It's not about, will they think I'm awesome or ace, or do I look nice, or,
Yeah.
Legend in My Own Lifetime and all the rest of it. It's right. Okay, let's get the notes out. What's happening here? This is really exciting.
And
I think that's a great approach. Yeah, that's
excited
easy
about
to
that.
forget in a way that it's usually about people think about, oh, how am I coming across? How are they coming across to me?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like the focus is their music. So I think that's a valuable thing to take.
And led
with
by
you.
them, actually, Alex, because the thing that all those people have in common is that actually they're fascinated by the music and it's what they want to talk to you about. They can't wait for you to come in because they're going to be able to explore this fantastic song they've written that everyone's really keyed up about. So, yeah.
And have you ever, again, it's not about Chris Martin or any other big names that you work with, just by any chance, have you ever felt the need, because you obviously you're a very well-educated, well-experienced professional musician, have you ever felt the need to simplify what you're saying, or have you ever felt the need over-explain certain things?
Why would I do that?
So you never encountered, like, I mean, sometimes you encounter those people guys like way less experience, and they feel that they are,
No.
a wrong person in a room, and then in order for you to make them feel good, you had to go around, cut the corners. Have you ever?
I understand what you're trying
Yeah.
to say. You're asking me, are you by nature patronizing? And I hope not.
No, I'm I'm not saying that. Come on, Audrey. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, I'm just saying whether you ever had experience where you had to just play it safe.
No, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
So no.
Because you don't want to be offensive, but you at the same time, you're not responsible for what other people think or how they feel necessarily, right? But at the same time, you don't want to be offensive and make them feel even unintentionally bad.
But then, you're assuming that. Anyway, I think what you're talking about is actually the language of music.
Yeah.
Because Chris Martin's an extremely intelligent person. Matt Bellamy is ridiculous.
Again, it's not them. I'm just asking in general.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. Look at him being happy that somebody's going to hate me in the comment section.
No.
No, but you're talking about music.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is the fact that I'm classically trained and I'm bringing into the studio other classically trained musicians, and that I'm working with musicians, rock musicians, jazz musicians, whatever, who aren't classically trained. Therefore, this stupid Italian that we all have to speak to each other, they don't speak Italian, right? These guys over here don't speak the language of rock, but somehow, probably because of my brother, I'm bilingual. So
you were like a translator?
So I'm like a translator. So, we're in the studio, you might be in a band or whatever, and somebody says, I really think there should be a whoosh into the chorus. And the guys over here aren't going to know what the hell that person means. Like, I don't know what you mean by goat.
Yeah.
Because I've never heard that before. But I'm used to someone in a band saying whoosh, and I know exactly what they mean. And it's that run into the chorus. So I can translate that into language and notes for the group of people who aren't in that working practice on a daily basis.
Would you say then it's really important, regardless of what kind of music you do and what kind of instrument you play, to try to be somewhat aware of what maybe is going on in other musical worlds that you might end up, encountering in your lifetime?
Do you mean professionally, or do you mean because it would do you good curiosity-wise?
Both.
I think it would do you good curiosity-wise. But I think if it's not in your everyday working practice and you don't need to understand what diminuendo means, then why bother? I mean, I think I'm probably still pretty hazy on jazz chords, Shukhrat, as you know. So I don't play very many of them. So
That's fine.
It's okay.
Just stack them. Stack some triads. Nobody's going to notice anything. That's what I always say to people to do.
So I think you mean that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I am by nature that curious.
Yeah.
But sometimes encounter someone like Aleks, who is the polar opposite of me, he is curious but just doesn't have energy to, spend on trying to learn everything.
Depends on what it is.
Yeah. I just have that, unlimited capacity of energy and so forth and so on.
But do you mean, do I sometimes have to talk slowly for my students?
No.
Only when I'm talking to you.
Okay. Yeah. Listen, that was morning class. It was quite early just to defend myself. But yeah, and you mentioned students. You mentioned students. You mentioned teaching. Although you not a fan of calling yourself a teacher because you said that you are learning
Well,
with us,
I am a
right?
teacher, yeah,
But by profession, on the paper, yes. But
I'm
in a room, I've never
educator.
felt. Yeah, educator. But in the room, you always, you keep that open mindedness. You always want to yourself learn a thing or two. That's how it always felt. So
Yeah.
how and when that teaching came in the picture, and did that change how you played, how you composed, or did that aspect of your
say.
professional life influenced others?
Hard to say. I've been teaching since I left the Guildhall. My first job was teaching at St Paul's Cathedral.
Okay.
The choir boys, they would have instrumental lessons and I'd be the cello teacher.
Okay.
So I did that for a few years. So I've always taught. I mean, wouldn't you agree? As a musician, you're teaching yourself on a daily basis.
100%.
Oh yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
100%.
So if you can't teach yourself, you can't play your instrument.
So
So
for me, it was jazz that taught me how to teach myself and how to find,
so
ways.
teaching then is a two-way street in which, some other people are maybe getting some insights while you're continuing to teach yourself. I mean, the great thing about teaching, of course, is you can bring in the latest thing that's really hit you as interesting. And
Yeah, there's always going to be new stuff coming in. Like, and that's the thing. Like, it's always an endless journey of learning the being a musician. So, like, as you're saying, you there's always something new and hopefully exciting that comes along.
And that big family of mine, what we all had in common was desperate curiosity about things. My dad said apparently the first words I ever said were, "Oh, look at that." What's going on over there? Is noticing things, being curious. How does that work? Why is this happening? Yeah, so I think it's a natural step to want to share that with other people.
Okay, apart from
in some
curiosity,
ways.
maybe then, when dealing with difficult students like myself, what would you say that some things that you can suggest or recommend to maybe someone like me and Alex? We both teach. What would be things that you suggest? Like, try doing this or try keeping this in your mind or whatever. Like something practical that might help you. Maybe in early stages of teaching, or in general, doesn't matter when. Like something that you maybe have to remind yourself or not. 'Cause some people are more natural at it than the others. Like I've seen both. Is there something practical that you can recommend, or something that you maybe after years of teaching, like a kind of like a rule, quote unquote, rule book that you made in your head, maybe even written down, that you would like everyone to follow or try to follow when it comes to teaching others?
Oh gosh, that's a very big question, and I'm not even sure I would be qualified to tell other people what to do. But if I think about what I rely on as a teacher, I think I listen. I think I first of all listen to the student and find out who they are and what it is that is going to lead out their own development, put them in charge of their own development. What are they interested in? What's going to really pique their curiosity? And then it's a matter of standing back and watching, just guiding from time to time and putting the right things in the path for them to pick up.
And do you try to
experience that?
Do you try to guide them through the lens of, I think that's how it should be, or through the lens, I know I heard you, I see where you're trying to get, and I'll try to get you there?
What are we talking about? Playing or composition or
Just
just anything?
Would you differentiate those
No, not
when it
really.
comes to teaching?
Not really. I mean, so you have to separate out the tools and the techniques that you can offer, that are, the techniques that you can offer and the knowledge that makes the tools that the student can use to build the thing they want to build. So it'd be pointless saying to the student, "What do you want to play?" And they say some mad, crazy jazz number, but they can barely play a scale, right? So you would say, "Okay, we'll do that." But so first of all, in order to play that, we need to learn these other mad, crazy scales. So yeah, the tools and techniques have to be there.
Okay.
But I think in terms of whether things are right or wrong, I actually really oppose the method of teaching that has been around for so long that I experienced, other people experiencing, because I had great teachers, which is that you're wrong until you're right.
Mm.
You play, you're wrong, no, play, no, play, no. Ah, now you got it. Why did I get it? Don't know. It was good though.
Yeah, this doesn't seem very
Yeah.
constructive.
No. So yeah, I think listening
Okay.
frameworks as well, making it clear what it is we're going to do, and
Mm.
why,
Mm.
and what the goal might be, where you might get to through doing that. And actually, interestingly, this is one I have to sit on a lot. Sometimes composition students have a really weird sense of harmony. And it's not wrong what they're playing to me grammatically. It's actually correct.
Mm.
It's a bit strange.
Okay.
And I have to say to myself, but that's really moving them. And it's correct grammatically.
Mm.
So I don't have any right to say.
Oh, so that's how basically Audrey assessed my exam. Now I know what was going on in your head.
Yeah, you have to listen to them,
Mm.
I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think on that note, that's a
Well, yeah,
nice place to end
we're
it.
gonna try to wrap things up, but right before we finish, I think just like last two questions, which the first one is a bit philosophical.
I was going to give an anecdote before we did that. Can
Ooh,
I?
Absolutely.
Because
The
I
floor is
If you have
yours.
time.
Because
If you have time.
talking about teaching and talking about listening and talking about bands, I want to give a shout out to my ex-student Melissa, who I taught when she was a little girl into being a teenager. And she really knows how to listen.
Mm.
So there was the day that I got this cassette through the post from a band called Muse. And I sort of listened to a couple of seconds of it and then went round to Melissa's house to give her a cello lesson.
Mm.
And she said, "What's happening today then, Audrey?" I said, "Well, I don't know. This weird band called Muse sent me a cassette. Don't know what it is. Listen to it." When I get home, she said, "Audrey, put down your cello now and go home and ring them back."
Well, thank you, Melissa.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Melissa.
Melissa.
Yeah. Clever girl.
Smart person. But yeah, my question was a bit philosophical. You are someone that I personally, I know Alex, and I believe many people are looking at and genuinely thinking of you as a milestone in a way, someone to be aspired, someone.
Oh God, no,
I
don't.
always thought of you as a big professional. I always thought of you as someone with a very fascinating career and a life and
That's so
CV
lucky.
and all those things. But with all that experience, where would you want to see yourself or be in, let's say, like 5 years? What is something on the horizon of Audrey Riley that makes
That would
you
make me
exciting or makes
happy.
you
Make
happy?
me
Yes.
happy. I think pretty much for things to continue the way they are. I love my teaching. I love
Mhm.
working with my string section. I love doing string arrangements and composing. I love working with the bands that I work with. I love being in an academic community. That's a new one, post PhD. So I would like to be more involved in research and getting into that kind of thinking. And I think, just more of what I'm doing, because to be honest, Shukhrat, you say I'm all these amazing things, and I'm very lucky that I've been able to capitalise on that. I've had a really fabulous, wonderful career so far. But my God, think about the opportunities that were given to me as a child. 8 to 19, all that time and money invested in me. Flipping heck. I mean, and then the opportunity to, in the 80s, things were tough financially and whatever, but there were record companies around who were up for people doing crazy things. And so we could do crazy things. I don't have to live with the anxiety and the stress and strain that your generation have to put up with. So I've been extremely lucky and unlucky in some other ways. And I am actually really, really happy that I get to spend time with young people and learn from them and have fun and have a laugh.
Thank you very much.
Otherwise, where would I be gardening?
Open your eyes out. The Audrey Riley gardening YouTube channel is coming up soon. But the last
would love
one,
to see it.
the last
Yeah.
last question for Nat and B. If there were, let's say, up to 3 things that you would tell young Audrey Riley that our viewers can
Oh,
take
gosh.
now and learn from, what would be those things that you tell to younger self and to our viewers? Something that some postulates to remember, something to keep in the back of their minds, maybe that might help them in life.
Yeah, I tell my younger self not just chill out, stop worrying, chill out. Really, maturity will come in time. Try to make it come sooner.
Well said.
Yes, I would tell myself not to take up smoking.
If Audrey's not in the classroom, she's in the smoking area. Just say
Yes,
that.
absolutely true. Yeah, and the third thing would be just to listen to what my dad was telling me, which is just whatever you do, love, be happy. Just be happy. Make sure you're doing
Well,
something that makes you happy.
Incredible wise words to finish this special episode.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Audrey, for being here
Shukhrat.
with us.
Thank you for being awesome students as well.
Thank you.
Keeping me young this past year.
You mean a lot to us and to our
stop.
wonderful viewers. Just, I hope you guys see what an incredible person here with us
You're
today, and
embarrassing me.
cannot thank you enough.
Yeah.
Alex, I think Alex agrees with me. Thank you very much, Audrey. This one
Such a pleasure having
for
you.
you, Audrey. Thank you very much for being here. One more time, guys. Audrey Riley, all the links, website, everything down below. Go give Audrey some love. Bye, guys.
Bye.